You're making money. Your schedule is full. Your responsibilities are being handled. On paper, your life looks stable, even successful. But deep down, there's a quiet sense of loss you can't quite name. It's not desperation. It's not chaos. It's something colder than that. A subtle realization that despite all the effort, something essential is slipping away. You move through your days on autopilot, checking tasks off a list that never ends. Each accomplishment brings a brief sense of relief, but never fulfillment. And the more you accomplish, the more pressure you feel to keep going, because stopping feels dangerous, as if everything you've built could collapse the moment you slow down. At some point, money stopped being a means to live and became proof that your life was justified, proof that the sacrifices were worth it, proof that you weren't wasting time. Without noticing, you began using income as evidence that you were doing life correctly. And once that happens, every decision starts passing through the same filter. Will this move me forward? Forward doesn't mean happier. It doesn't mean more aligned. It simply means more productive, more efficient, more acceptable. And slowly your life becomes narrower, shaped by what pays instead of what fulfills. You tell yourself this is temporary, that once you reach a certain level, things will calm down. That peace is waiting somewhere in the future, but the future keeps moving. The goalposts shift. What once felt like enough now feels basic. What once motivated you now barely sustains you. You don't feel poor, but you don't feel rich in the ways that matter. You feel suspended in an endless in-between, where comfort exists, but satisfaction doesn't. And that gap between what you have and what you feel starts to weigh on you more than any financial pressure ever did. This is how people lose themselves quietly. Not through failure, but through constant adaptation. You adapt to stress. You adapt to exhaustion. You adapt to a life that doesn't feel right, telling yourself that discomfort is normal, that everyone feels this way. And maybe they do. But living disconnected doesn't mean it's healthy. It just means it's common. You weren't meant to spend your entire life proving your worth through output. Yet here you are, measuring your days by what you produce instead of how you experience them. The hardest part is that nothing looks wrong. From the outside, you're functioning. You're reliable, you're disciplined. People might even admire you, but internally there's a growing sense of distance between who you are and who you've become. You don't feel present in your own life. Even moments of rest feel incomplete because your mind is still working, still calculating, still planning the next move. Silence feels uncomfortable because it forces you to notice what you've been avoiding. You start feeling guilty for wanting more than stability, guilty for questioning a life others would be grateful for. So you push the questions down. You stay busy. You stay productive. You stay moving. Because as long as you're moving, you don't have to feel. But movement without direction eventually turns into running in circles, and exhaustion becomes your baseline. Not because you're weak, but because you're carrying a life that doesn't fit. Money amplifies this problem when it becomes the main source of validation. When your sense of progress depends on financial growth, you're never allowed to feel complete. There's always another target, another comparison, another reminder that you could be doing more. And comparison quietly robs you of peace. You don't compare your life to your past anymore. You compare it to other people's highlights, their results, their timelines. And no matter how far you've come, it never feels like enough. You might tell yourself that once you slow down, you'll lose momentum. That ambition will fade, that discipline will disappear, but that fear is part of the trap. Because slowing down doesn't mean giving up. It means recalibrating. It means asking questions you've been too busy to ask. Questions like, why am I doing this? Who am I becoming through this pace? What am I trading away that I won't get back? These questions don't have immediate answers, and that's why they're avoided. But avoiding them doesn't make them disappear. It only makes the cost higher later. There's a difference between building a life and managing one. When you're only managing, everything becomes maintenance. You're not creating anymore. You're preserving, you're protecting, you're sustaining a structure that once represented growth but now feels restrictive. And the longer you stay in that mode, the harder it becomes to imagine alternatives. Not because they don't exist, but because you're too tired to consider them. You're not failing because you want something deeper. You're not ungrateful because success doesn't feel satisfying. You're human, and humans aren't designed to find meaning solely in survival or accumulation. You need direction. You need alignment. You need to know that your effort is connected to something that matters to you, not just something that pays. Without that connection, even success starts to feel like loss. Real winning isn't loud. It doesn't always show up as growth on a chart. Sometimes it looks like clarity, like presence, like the ability to sit with yourself without needing distraction. Sometimes progress means choosing less in order to feel more. Not because you lack ambition, but because you understand that ambition without purpose eventually consumes you. If you never stop to redefine what success means, you'll keep chasing versions of it that don't belong to you. You'll keep making money while quietly losing time, identity, and connection. And one day you may realize that the cost was far greater than the reward. Not because money is bad, but because it was never meant to carry the weight of your entire life. You're making money, but the real question is whether your life still feels like it's moving forward in a way that makes sense to you. Not to society, not to expectations, not to comparisons, to you. Because earning without meaning is just another form of loss. And until that truth is faced honestly, no amount of financial success will ever feel like a real win. And maybe that's why so many people feel tired even when life looks stable. Because stability without meaning slowly drains you. You're not exhausted from doing too much. You're exhausted from doing things that don't feed who you are. Every day feels heavier, not because it's harder, but because it feels repetitive without purpose. You're investing energy, time, focus, but the return is hollow. And when effort stops feeling meaningful, motivation doesn't disappear loudly. It fades quietly. The danger isn't ambition. The danger is living on autopilot for too long. When days turn into weeks, and weeks into years without intentional direction, when your life becomes a reaction instead of a choice, you react to bills, expectations, deadlines, comparisons, and slowly, your sense of authorship over your own life weakens. You're present physically, but mentally you're always somewhere else, chasing, planning, worrying. Money reinforces this autopilot when it becomes the main justification for everything. I can't stop. I need to keep earning. I can't change now. I've invested too much. I'll figure myself out later. Later becomes the most expensive word in your life because time keeps moving, whether you're aligned or not. And postponing alignment doesn't make it easier. It makes it harder. You might think that questioning this means you're ungrateful. But gratitude doesn't mean silence. Gratitude doesn't mean accepting a life that feels wrong. You can appreciate what you have and still acknowledge that something needs to change. Those two things are not opposites. In fact, ignoring that inner signal is often what turns gratitude into resentment over time. Growth isn't always about expansion. Sometimes it's about refinement, about removing what no longer serves you, about simplifying instead of accumulating, about choosing depth over speed. But that kind of growth doesn't get applause. It doesn't show up on social media. It doesn't come with immediate validation, which is why so few people choose it, even though it's the kind that actually brings peace. If you never pause to recalibrate, life will eventually force you to. Burnout, emptiness, disconnection. Not as punishment, but as signals. Signals that something inside you needs attention. The question isn't whether those moments will come. The question is whether you'll listen when they do, or numb yourself and keep going. Winning isn't about constantly proving your value. You don't need to earn your right to exist through productivity. Your life isn't a transaction, and the moment you stop treating it like one, something shifts internally. You breathe differently. You think differently. You begin making decisions based on alignment instead of fear. You're making money, and that's not wrong. But money should support your life, not define it. It should give you options, not take them away. It should create space, not fill every corner of your existence. When it becomes the center, everything else starts orbiting around it, and that's when life slowly loses its balance. At some point, you have to decide what winning actually means to you, not to your past self, not to society, not to comparison, to you now. Because if you don't define that intentionally, you'll spend years chasing goals that look impressive, but feel empty once you reach them. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're not failing. You're simply at a point where surface success is no longer enough. And that's not a crisis, it's an invitation. An invitation to slow down, to reflect, to realign, to choose a version of success that doesn't require you to lose yourself in the process. Because the real loss isn't financial. It's living a life that looks right, but doesn't feel right.